What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and it's Fresh Build Friday. That's right, it's that time of the week again where we get you ready for the weekend with a brand new coil build. Alright guys, so today's build is going to be a quad coil on this Rafale X RDA. Now this thing has a neutral center post in it, which means instead of dividing the overall resistance by 4, you're actually going to add each coil's resistance together to make the final resistance. So if you guys are planning on building along with me today, then make sure you're building safe. You might have to add a couple extra wraps or use a bigger diameter or a smaller gauge wire, but in any case, make sure you pay attention to this one because it's going to be a lot of fun. So go ahead and grab your tools, your wick, your wire, your mod, your addy, all that good stuff. Let's go down to the close-up view and build it up. Alright guys, so as you can see, we have all our supplies ready to go. We're going to be using some of this Mad Rabbit 23 gauge Nichrome 90 wire today. And I kind of chose this because I like how low resistance it is, but at the same time you get really good flavor out of it as well. But feel free to use whatever you guys want, to be honest. I don't think this really matters. Everyone just kind of wants to see the quads, and you know they're going to light up no problem because it's on this Relo 200 watt, so we can adjust it no matter what resistance it comes out to whatever suits us best. So I've got 2 little strands of wire here about 5 or 6 inches long, and I pre-cut 2 of them already, so let's just go ahead and get building. Let's move everything out of the way first, and we have our 3mm bit on our coil jig here, and I'm going to be wrapping 2 coils over the top and then 2 coils the opposite way, and you'll see why we do that in just a second. Alright guys, we've got our Rafale X all ready to be built here, and as you can see, the outer 2 posts are taller than the neutral center post. That's why we did our wraps in 2 different directions. Speaking of wraps, we did 6 wrap coils today, but you guys can do however many wraps you want, really. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because we've got it on a variable wattage box mod, and that's what is going to make up the difference when it comes to power. So when it comes to the wraps here, the outermost wrap should have the last lead going over the top. That's what we really want with this build here. That's going to make it all nice and neat. So we're just going to install this coil on this side, and this coil on this side. There we go. So as you can see here, I've bent up all the leads so that it makes it just easier to figure out whenever you're going to trim off your wire. And since we can't screw anything down just yet because we have our other 2 coils to install, it just makes it out of the way, so it's just is easier to build the other 2. So same process on this side here. We're just going to slide these in. And pretty much just like any quad coil that I make, it looks like a wiry mess right now. But, well, you know, that's okay. That's okay. For right now, that's going to be fine. Again, just kind of squeezing these coils together a little bit just so they get a little bit closer here. I didn't bother doing any 90-degree bends or anything like that because, honestly, I feel like they're just going to kind of get ruined when you're installing them anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten all these down now, and we can start trimming off those leads and neatening up that wire. So there we go. Just make sure when you're tightening these leads down that your coils don't shift around too much because that will kind of screw up your lead spacing and everything like that. So just keep an eye on it whenever you're tightening your wire down. Since you bent up those leads, the leftover wire on the outside here, it shouldn't really move around too much on you, but just, again, keep an eye on it. Just putting the final little bit of tension on these screws here, just like that. There we go. And that should be enough so that we can actually just spin off our excess wire here, just like that. And if the screws are tight enough, it's going to break really clean on you, and that's exactly what we want. So just kind of bend up that wire until it snaps nice and clean. And there we go. We've got all the wire cut nice and neat. Now what I'm going to do is just take my bit out of the jig And this is how we're gonna just nudge those coils one last time here. So just kind of get it to where you can get it through both coils. Sometimes it'll take a little bit of extra muscle. There we go, just like that, like that. Just kind of give it a little bit of a nudge. Not really expecting these to move around too much on us, but just a final little check on them, making sure they're away from the posts and everything like that. And then we're going to do this side. Okay, so these two I have a little bit extra lead space on, which is not a bad thing. Just going to try to get these a little bit more organized before we give this thing any heat. And this is where I guess the you know, the elbow grease kind of comes into play, because you got to put a little bit of muscle into it sometimes. And you shouldn't really have to be afraid with any of these, you know, RDAs. This one, the neutral post is a little bit wobbly, but I really don't feel like I'm going to break it on here, so hopefully that remains true. And I'm going to give it a once over here, making sure everything's aligned properly. You should be able to just slide that bit right through there, no problem. Shouldn't give you any sort of resistance on there. Just like that. And we're looking awful good here, so let's go ahead and lower our wattage to what we're going to be tuning these coils at here. I'd say around probably 50 watts or so. That's usually what I do. Oops. All right, we're at 50 watts. Let's go ahead and give these things some heat. So we just want to be on the lookout for any little hot spots or anything like that with these coils here. And yeah, just kind of glow them very slowly. I like starting off at a very low wattage here just to tune up these coils a little bit. Making sure we're in good shape before we give it a proper heat up here. And again, just double check or triple check your screws just to make sure everything's good and tight. I always check my screws several times when I build, just in case. You can never be too careful with your screws. And as long as everything's in good shape here, we can just bump up our wattage. So let's go to 100 watts. And give it some more heat. Look at those puppies glow. There's a lot of heat coming off those coils too, so I'm expecting a lot of vapor production. All right. Well, that looks good to me. Let's go ahead and wick this guy. Alright guys, so as you saw, I only put one piece of cotton through both coils, and I've done this technique before with the kissing quads. Hopefully it works out again with just a standard quad. I'm pretty sure it will, because I feel like otherwise the wicks would be really kind of bunched up in there if I was doing 4 individual wicks. But let's see if this thing works out. So let's vape it at 100 watts here and see some vapor production. Pretty good if you ask me. Actually, I'm going to bump this thing up to about 125. There we go. 125 watts. There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right, let's go back to the main screen, have a quick vape on this thing, and we'll talk about it some more. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the build section of this video. Now let's talk about the coils that we just built in here. So my first category, as always, is the heat. Now I'm vaping it at 125 watts, which is on the extreme side. Honestly, the heat on this one right now is pretty up there. So if you guys like a scorching hot vape, this one's going to be for you. For me, I'd rather vape this around 100 watts or so. I feel like that would be a lot more comfortable for me personally. Now, the second category is the ramp up and ramp down time. Actually, I wanted to talk about this real quick because I'm vaping it at 125 watts to kind of negate the fact that it has a little bit more ramp up time. I mean, there are 4 coils in there and it does take a little bit longer to heat up that much wire. So I'm vaping it at 125 watts. The final resistance came out to 0.16 ohms and we're vaping at 4.49 volts, which is definitely on the higher side. I could see myself turning this one down a little bit and I'm going to get a little bit of a cooler vape, but it's going to take a little bit more time to ramp up. So let's just go ahead and take a pull off of this thing and we'll check out the ramp up and ramp down. Alright, so the ramp up time, even at 125 watts, is still about a full second. However, the ramp down time is a little bit less than I was expecting. It's about average at 2 to 3 second ramp down, and it's kind of mild. It kind of sizzles for a little bit, and then it goes away. So really a milder ramp down time than I was expecting. But the ramp up time, it might be a little bit of an issue if you don't like a scorching hot vape. My third category is the difficulty of this build. Really, it's not that hard to build quads, as long as you can just kind of get everything tuned up and just real nice and centered and everything like that. That's really the key with quad coils. I had a kissing quad video a while back and that actually came out really good. Honestly, I would kind of like to make these kissing, but I feel like the center post, the post holes on it are just not quite close enough to get it to where I like it. So maybe this configuration is better for this particular RDA out there, but honestly, if you can do a dual coil, you can do a quad coil. Just mastering the ability to wrap backwards is actually the thing that's going to be the hardest part about this, and tuning up the coils should be somewhat of a breeze. My final category, the one you've all been waiting for, is the flavor. The flavor on this one is pretty good. I feel like at 125 watts, again, the flavor is being killed off a little bit, but the flavor I'm vaping today is some of this fruit and custard honeydew. This is by Vapetasia, their new line, and it is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love honeydew flavors, and you get that nice kind of fruitiness, and then you get the cream aftertaste. And I feel like the heat just brings out that flavor a little bit more, especially the honeydew. I really get a lot of honeydew out of this one, and I absolutely love it. So flavor on this one is slightly better than expected. With Nichrome 90, I get tremendous flavor. And also I get that nice low resistance so I can vape it at a slightly higher wattage. And overall, I think this one is a great coil, even if you don't have a neutral center post RDA such as the Rafale X. I really highly recommend you guys try this one out because honestly, I get really good vapor production and flavor out of it. So again, if you're using something that doesn't have a neutral center post, you're just going to have to add a couple extra wraps on there, which shouldn't be hard for any experienced builder out there. So anyways, guys, that about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Leave me comments in the box below about anything you want to talk about, whether it be this build or the Rafale X or just a suggestion for a future Fresh Build Friday episode. I'd love to talk to you guys down there. Check out the advocacy links I have in the description. Make sure you fight for your right to vape. You don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. Also, check me out on my different social media pages. I have Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow me on there. Like my page on Facebook. Check out my Snapchat. And if you want to give me a couple bucks on Patreon, that would be awesome as well. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, vape on.